Economic Transformation Subcommittee. We will look at issues in the economic environment. We will also focus on the work we're doing in transportation and also focus on the work we are doing in the area of employment and labor. With me this afternoon, I have to my right the chairperson of the Economic Transformation Subcommittee of the NEC, Comrade Mamuluku Kubai, well known to you in these briefings. And next to Comrade Mamuluku is Comrade Makosazana Meth, who is also both herself, in fact the three comrades are ANC deployees in the National Executive. Comrade Makosazana Meth, who is the Minister of Employment and Labor. And then next to my left is Comrade Barbara Creasy, who is our ANC deployee in the capacity of the Minister of Transport. The three comrades are going to participate in the conversation that we're about to have with yourselves, members of the media. Without any waste of time, I will hand over to the chair of the subcommittee to read out the statement.
I hope I'm not too tall for the stay. Thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi, and greetings to my comrades, Comrade Barbara and Comrade Meth. As we advance from the 6th to the 7th administration, our determination to overcome the complex economic challenges faced by our people has never been this stronger. You'd remember that in government, we're still concluding the 6th administration and MTSF, which will end this financial year, and the new MTDP will start the next year. And this is the context that this is work that started in the 6th administration as we conclude it into and transitioning into the 7th administration. We stand ready and shoulders squared, focus on tangible solutions that deliver real and sustained improvements to the lives of South Africans. The NC-led government is acting decisively to shield households from the harsh impact of rising costs, expanding the zero-rated VAT food basket as part of our bold steps to alleviate inflation on basic food items, protecting both low-income and middle-class families. These efforts are a testament to our commitment to making essentials affordable and accessible. The NC remains resolute in easing the burden on South Africans, and as these measures take hold, our people's lives are steadily improving. The expansion signals more than economic relief. It's a signal of our dedication to bringing direct, visible change in people's daily lives. The government is clear that taming inflation, particularly in essential food prices, is paramount for stability and rebuilding the public's faith in our collective future. Under the ANC leadership, our focus on sound fiscal policy has bolstered the rand, stabilizing prices on consumer goods and reducing import costs. This is about more than economics. It's about real relief for South Africans, making life more affordable for ordinary citizens and businesses. We are unwavering in our resolve to maintain a strong currency, shield our people from unchecked inflation, and make tangible differences in their financial well-being. Our stance is clear as we continue, and there are various initiatives that will count in terms of ensuring that we continue the work of reducing the cost of living. The first one is around electricity prices. Our stance is very clear. Energy must remain affordable, and the ANC will not allow spiraling electricity tariffs to undermine the livelihoods of our people. As we continue pushing forward measures to reduce electricity costs, our commitment to protecting households from unaffordable tariffs is unwavering. We are working tirelessly to stabilize the energy sector, ensuring that subsidies and protections are in place for those most vulnerable. Electricity must serve as a public good, not an unaffordable luxury. And our aim is to secure a stable and resilient energy supply for everyone. We are in firm agreement with all role players, and the objective is set a sustainable, affordable energy supply for all South Africans. And this includes issues such as alternative energy supply in various areas. One of the work that we are doing with Minister Ramokgopa is to look at issues around ensuring that in communities where we've built RDP houses, we can go and put solar panels so that they do not become a burden, but they become easy to accessing energy. Another area that we've paid attention to and continues, and we hope we're looking at ensuring that this is concluded, is around fuel prices. Through our intervention on fuel prices, particularly by suspending increases to the general fuel levy and the RAF levy, the NC-led government has directly benefited, has ensured that consumers can be able to benefit out of this. Our objective is a bold reduction of fuel cost by 30%, lowering the cost of transportation for everyday South Africans and bringing relief to the economy at large. The step aligns with our broader strategy to protect South Africans from cost of living pressures and inject stability into commuting, logistics, and food prices. Another area, as we talk about fuel prices, and I must just highlight there, is that work continues between the deployees and the in-government to ensure that this is also sustainable and realized. And you would understand as we refer to the issue of recomposition of that fuel levy and ensuring that we can be able to relieve South Africans of that pressure. Another area of cost of living is what we acknowledge as commuters moving in terms of especially the working class, having difficulty or even some time previously had difficulties of moving and spending a lot of money on transportation. And that's why priority was placed and urged the deployees in transport to ensure that passenger PRASA lines are restored. We are happy to report that 31 out of 40 PRASA lines have been recovered and 300 stations are active, with ticket prices around 7.50 to ensure affordable transport costs. This is a much relief to communities that are battling, and we would want to see the remainder of the lines being restored so that all our communities can be. You would hear communities from Yokukuletu, communities from Soweto talking about this because it does make a difference. If they continue to pay high costs in terms of transport, it reduces what they have in their hands to be able to survive as South Africans. Work is underway in terms of transforming the social support systems. This is part of acknowledging that as we review, Lekgotla early this year identified this area as well as one of those that we must pay attention. Over time, as we included social packages for South Africans, the set qualifying criteria were previously set on previous figures in the economy. We have urged our deployees in government to ensure that this is reviewed, and one of the areas that this has found traction and work is done and should be implemented in the next financial year is around the qualifying criteria of RDP houses, where 3,500 has been a minimum of those who qualify to be able to get an RDP. To say anyone who gets 3,000, who earns 3,500 and above cannot get an RDP, whereas a food basket sits at 4,500. So work is underway, and this will be implemented in the next financial year. This is work that started in the 6th administration led by ANC. Just to expand in terms of the energy security, you'd remember that when we came and briefed the media, just prior to election in our last media briefing before elections, but also the first media briefing after, we emphasized the importance of energy security and stability. We committed to South Africans that will ensure that load shedding becomes the issue of the past, and the president stood. Unfortunately, some South Africans did not believe us. They thought that this was an electioneering. Today, we have experienced 213 days free from load shedding, a demonstration of our commitment to stable energy supply. Through the ANC data-driven generation recovery plan, Eskom's energy availability factor has risen, with a target of 70% by March 2025. Infrastructure projects to restore transformers has been done. Quite a number of transformers across the provinces have been achieved. In Gauteng, in Limpopo, in Free State, all of those, Comrade Sputla would have reported about the amount of transformers that have been restored. Want to urge South Africans, as we do this work, can they not do illegal connections because they continue to damage infrastructure? This work, we want to see sustainability of it and being able to benefit from for communities, because availability of energy is what South Africans have asked from us. I just want to emphasize again, improving building efficiency underway, fortifying our energy grid, and ensuring stability for years to come. We have delivered on our promise on dependable energy, and our people can rely on us to keep the lights on as we continue with the work. Moving in terms of the issues that we said we will also deal with, in terms of economic diplomacy, as ANC, we remain steadfast committed to the implementation of the AfCFTA, African Free Trade Agreement. We are ensuring South African industries have greater access to continental markets. Our effort to expand trade across Africa signal our dedication to a prosperous, unified Africa, one where South Africa stands strong as a leading economic player. This agreement is not just an opportunity, it's a pathway to uplift local industries, creating jobs and growing the economy for all South Africans. This is linked to the work that we are doing on manufacturing and reviving of our industries so that we can have sustainable jobs, but jobs that are not just temporary, as others would have said. So supporting the mass employment program, which I will be coming to later, is the work that we are doing in some of these industries. Part of the work that has been done, starting from the 6th administration coming to here, as we see progress in terms of AGOA and negotiations, you would understand that this efforts has been a hard work from ANC-led government. In the 6th administration, the president sent, for example, a team to US, to the capital, to go and engage the lawmakers there to be able to protect South Africa not to be removed from AGOA. That work continued in the 7th administration as Comrade Parkster, the deployee in government, has been engaging. And the work that we see, progress that we are seeing today, the hostility going down, and also some little hope that has started to see, it's work that has been deliberately done by ANC-led government. AGOA remains critical for our sectors, especially in the agricultures and others, and also in increasing the foreign investment on the continent and in the country. Again, in terms of our work at BRICS, we are fostering financial stability and reducing currency reliance, positioning South Africa as a central economic leader globally. This also will be some of the work that we did at the FOCAC, led by the President, as ANC-led government in BRICS, in AGOA, but also multilateral platforms that are also driving trade relations that are contributing to our economy. That's why it's important to note that work that we are doing around import and exports remain critical. All this work will contribute to the work that we have committed in our manifesto in terms of creation of jobs and economic development. The implementation of the Public Procurement Act remains critical for us. It's a component that will assist us in ensuring that localization, beneficiation of mineral commodities is happening, and ramping up industrialization as efforts to boost our economy becomes a reality. And we are looking forward to the Minister of Finance releasing the regulations as soon as possible so that this area we can start seeing impact as we have anticipated after the passing of the Public Procurement Bill. Act. Actually, it's now an act. The NC's vision is a South Africa where everyone has access to work and opportunity. Through the Presidential Employment Stimulus, we have created over 1.7 million work and livelihood opportunities, prioritizing the inclusion of women, youth, and people with disability. Our job creation efforts are unwavering, and we call on the private sector to join us in this mission. We will not rest until every South African has the opportunity for a stable and dignified livelihood. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue, our ambitious infrastructure pipeline will transform logistics, streamline transportation, and fuel economic growth. With a modernized infrastructure, we are driving economic productivity and making South Africa an attractive investment destination. Our focus on industrialization means creating a self-sufficient economy where South Africans produce and thrive. This work will expand as well as we do in terms of infrastructure pipeline, whether it's in the what we call a property market, in the energy sector continues, in the transport and logistics. And I must say, I was saying to Comrade Barbara that we are receiving feedback that the restoration of the railway lines is starting to show green shoots, because most of the commodities now are moving from the road back to the rail. It might not have been in large scale in the manner that we want to see some of us, but I can surely tell you that this is progress work and much needed relief for many that have been calling for us to ensure that we improve the railway lines, especially for goods and services that we need to see. So we are commending our deployees, but we want to ensure that they continue in this work so that we can see the work that is being done. On agriculture, we remain committed to ensuring that agriculture central to our economic transformation agenda, remains central to our economic transformation agenda, The NC is committed to empowering small-scale farmers, ensuring food security and promoting sustainable rural development. Land reform remains essential for justice, community empowerment, and creating a more equitable society, and we will continue to drive progress in this vital area. You would note that towards the end of the 6th administration, there were quite a number of small-scale farmers or commercial farmers that actually were leasing land that was given by government. And towards the end, they were given about 28 of them, majority being women, given the title deed of those farms so that they can be able to trade but also have ownership and contribute to the jobs, to the food security in the country jobs, and also as part of transforming our economy. We'll continue to monitor this area as it remains critical in terms of agricultural land to the previously disadvantaged communities, but ensuring that food security is not compromised, and especially supporting those who are willing to participate as small-scale farmers in the agricultural side. On land reform, we'll continue to support the work that needs to be done in ensuring that people have title deeds, especially those who were previously dispossessed of their rightful land. This work will be continued. We will continue as ANC to monitor and ensure that we do not drop, including the land for human settlements that needs to be transferred, that is state land needs to be transferred into human settlement to ensure that the communities can continue to have access to housing opportunities but title deeds in their hands. As we conclude, the NC stands bold and resolute in transforming the economic landscape of South Africa. Our policies are clear, our direction unwavering, and our commitment absolute. The NC-led government is more determined than ever to empower every South African, restore hope, and build a nation that thrives on equality, dignity, and prosperity. Together, we will overcome the challenges, seize the opportunities, and deliver a brighter and stronger South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. I will, at this point, invite any questions from yourselves, colleagues, and these will be responded to by all the 3 members of the panel. Start this day, business day.
Good afternoon. My name is Tandwa Mayeko from the Business Day. To the chair of the ETC, I'd just like the ANC's view on proposals to introduce the fiscal rule, fiscal anchor, possibly legislating any upper ceiling to debt to GDP ratio. the DA has previously said it wants to cap it at 70%. That's obviously to slow down government spending in the face of the fiscal pressures. And then to the Minister of Transport, earlier, I think it was earlier this week, you mentioned to the Parliament's Portfolio Committee that the three largest SOEs in your portfolio, PRASA, SAA, and Transnet, require a large amount of capital funding. And as we head to the MTPBS, do you expect capital injections or any sort of guarantees, especially to Transnet, or additional state bailouts, just so that that entity can remain afloat?
All right, thank you very much. I'll go to newsroom and come to yourself, to you, Shazi.
Junior Kumalo again from Newsroom Africa. Minister Kubai, there were utterances that you made about the systematic discrimination by banks, and they did not go down well with a lot of the banks as well as some in the society. Do you still hold the same views? And have you had an opportunity to engage some of these banks? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shazi?
Good afternoon, Kusnati Shazi Kawe from News. My question is directed to the Minister of Employment. Minister, in South Africa, there's often a thin line between patriotism and xenophobia. So your department has been working hard. I know you guys have imposed more than 10 million rand in fines to some industries that are hiring undocumented foreign nationals. So as the subcommittee on economic transformation, will we see stricter measures imposed for the prioritization of South African workers? I even remember growing up, we could get jobs at restaurants, totally experience, but that's no longer happening because foreign nationals are now dominating these industries, and they paid quite little, and there's this notion that South Africans are entitled and that they are lazy. But how can we stimulate local economic growth if we are not being hired? So will we see stricter measures being imposed for the prioritization of South African workers? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will take, there are three other hands. Should we proceed? Are we comfortable? Okay. In that case, yourself over there, my brother.
Good afternoon. I think Alpha Ramoshan here from Eyewitness News. I think the chairperson touched on electricity, 200 and something days without load shedding, but electricity remains very expensive. We've seen the electricity price going higher and higher almost every year. Are there plans, perhaps, to address the expensive electricity? I mean, no one can afford to pay the electricity now. I mean, I have to choose between bread or electricity. So are there plans on the table to address that? While we're making gains, or while government is making gains to eradicate load shedding, municipalities are struggling to send that electricity to communities. That's why in places like Soshanguve and Pretoria, there's load reduction for 4 or 5 hours a day. Are the plans to assist municipalities in this regard to perhaps improve the infrastructure to avoid the notion of load reduction? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eyewitness News, SABC.
Thank you. It's Natasha Piri here from SABC News. Just to follow up on Alpha's question, and I know you touched on it a bit, Osma Moloko, but in regards to the tariff hikes and the constant increase in Eskom's tariffs, how sustainable do you think this is, especially for poor households? In terms of inflation, it's now sitting beyond the Reserve Bank's mid-target band, right? Do you think it's time for the Reserve Bank to be more aggressive in easing the interest rates? And the last question, just the ANC's reaction to the establishment of the BRICS grain exchange and your BRICS member countries increasingly trading amongst each other in their own currency. Thank you.
Thank you. I am just going to, come over. Yeah, Please proceed.
Shannon Merrick-Scassi, Broadcasting Africa. My first question is on transport. We have about 200,000 taxis on the road every day. The taxi industry have been crying for subsidies since 1991. I don't even want to say 94 because they were negotiating as part of CODESA as well. But the taxi industry is not getting subsidy. They're providing an essential service. What can be done to fast-track the taxi subsidy? The second one, President Ramaphosa comes from a successful BRICS summit, very successful, under the war between Ukraine and Russia. Every president was safe. Over 32 countries is now 32 or 36 is part of BRICS. How will South Africa use the BRICS currency in the SADC, in Africa, to trade as well as part of the Africa Free Trade Zone? Last but not least, no person except the old age or the disabled want to have a social grant. People want to work, they want employment. They want to earn a salary and so on. How can we reduce the number of people on grants and either move them into where they provide a service, they get a stipend, 1,200, 1,500 per month, and create a stimulus economy? If you pay somebody 2.5 from government as a job creation project, that money still goes back in the economy. That person have to buy airtime, have to buy an ice cream for his girlfriend and all of those things. So how do we use that money to stimulate the economy? Thank you.
Well, on that note of buying ice cream for the girlfriend, I'm going to turn to my comrades here. I'll ask that the chair comes last. Comrade Barbara, followed by Comrade Makosazana.
Thank you very much for the questions, and good afternoon to everybody. I think that, let me start off and say that it's not my place to be pronouncing on the budget or on the medium-term budget policy statement. What we know is that Transnet has been given in the 2024-2025 budget. Transnet was given government guarantees amounting to 47 billion rand. And so far I have signed guarantees for, it's approximately 25, 26 billion. So we still, I don't have further guarantees to sign before me at the moment, so we still have that facility. And I think the importance of those resources for Transnet is it allows us to proceed with important recapitalization and maintenance work that we desperately need to do, both on the lines and also, of course, even some of the work we need to do in the ports, where we are importing cranes and straddles and RTGs and so on, so that we can improve the efficiency of our ports and also the capacity, particularly that the oil corridors would be carrying. Now, this work is important because the more tons you can carry on the rail, the more revenue you can achieve. And I think a lot of Transnet's difficulty is that the tonnage on the lines has sunk to such a low level over the last 2 years that there are serious revenue generation issues. We have set up a war room in Transnet. It meets every day. And essentially what that war room is trying to do is to bring all the moving parts in this very big organization together so that we are able to address immediate challenges and improve the tonnage. And I can say that, we're just recovering now from the shut on the Sishen-Saldanha line, so the tonnage obviously will have dropped. But prior to that shut, we were getting much closer to 160 million tons the daily equivalent of what that would be if it were to be achieved over a year. So I think that that is what the focus is at the moment, is to get the tonnage up so that we improve the revenue and we can deal with the overhead costs. You also know that Cabinet took a decision in December 2023 to bring in third-party participation on the rail network. We are hoping by the end of the year to be able to put out the network statement, which is the menu and the price, and obviously from there to start to bring in other participants. And that obviously also allows us to improve tonnage and realize more revenue, which I think is essential to the economics of the freight industry. With regard to the taxi industry, I think that the fundamental area where the taxi industry receives subsidies at the moment is the scrapping allowance. And the problem is that the taxi recab is very expensive for drivers. And I think a lot of the cry around subsidization relates to the fact that if you compare that an average driver might be earning somewhere in the region of about 16,000 a month, but it's costing him 20,000 a month to repay his taxi. So there's a big gaping hole there. And the consequence of that big gaping hole is that many taxis get repossessed before they can be paid off. My view is that, and it's an issue that the industry has raised very strongly with me. My view is we have to sit together, the industry, the department, and the financiers. Because if I take a loan of 800,000 Rand, which is what a new taxi costs, I'm going to pay 4,000 Rand a month in repayment. But this operator is paying 20. So essentially he is not, or she's not paying the cost of the vehicle. She's paying finance charges because of risk. And that is, I think, a fundamental issue that we've got to be addressing. With regard to the broader issues of subsidies, you would know, first of all, that we do have fiscal difficulties. And I would be the first person to say that in the face of these difficulties, we must be prioritizing health and education and policing. I would be loath to be going to the Minister of Finance and say, please give me more subsidies. But I do think that we have a task to do, to look at all the pockets of subsidization within the transport system and to say, are we using these in the best manner possible? I think we know that the subsidies in the transport industry are going to certain bus companies and not others. We also know that the BRT, for example, has received a lot of money. We have to ask ourselves, are we getting bang for the buck for the BRT? And then we can begin to say, these are the pockets of money that we have. How could we use them better? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Comrade Brabra. Comrade Makosazana.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Good afternoon to my colleagues and to our friends from the media. I think I've got one question that I'll be dealing with that talks to the employment of the foreign nationals that are illegally here, because there's nothing wrong with employing foreign nationals in South Africa. We are all Africans, even those that come from other countries. They've got a policy that allows them to work in South Africa, but the problem is when we've got those that have visas as visitors or as students coming to South Africa, but they end up working, which is what we find. But when we go to those establishments in terms of the hospitality business in particular, and any other industry, when we do inspection, we are not focusing or we are not hunting foreign nationals, but we find them there. Otherwise, the compliance that we are inspecting is on all labor laws, which is Labor Relations Act, Basic Conditions of Employment Act, your COIDA, which is the Compensation of the Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act, the UI Act, and also the National Minimum Wage Act. So when you go to those businesses, we just go there to inspect everything. But if then we find, because we go as a team, normally when you go there, we go with SAPS or with Hawks, Home Affairs, and all other relevant departments, including municipalities. So one of the issues that we look at is the issue of the National Migration Act, the Labour Migration Act, where sometimes you get those who are here not qualified to be here, being then referred to the police stations. Even the 10 million rand that we've reported to be money that we have since recouped and paid to employees, it's not about the foreign nationals. We find those who don't comply with the National Minimum Wage Act, those who don't contribute on UI, because UI Act says you must contribute as an employer 1% and the employee 1% to UIF. So if we find you not having been complying, because other employers will take employees and make them to contribute their 1%, and they don't contribute, they register, they don't declare. So that's where then we say, going with the bargaining councils and all our partners, if then we are found to have not complied, then we say, we fine you, we want that money, and majority of that money goes to the pockets of the employees who've been robbed their rightful amount that's supposed to go to them. So that's what we are dealing with. But I can't agree more with you to say, then if then employers mischievously wanting to try to dodge the laws of the Republic, they target to employ those vulnerable foreign brothers and sisters, we've got a responsibility also as government to protect those, because they get to be abused, because they are not being paid the national minimum wage, and all other compliance issues are not being complied with because they choose to run and go and employ those foreign nationals. So in a way, it's a balancing act to protect also those the foreigners or nationals that are coming from outside South Africa, but at the same time to make them understand that there are opportunities that we are supposed to be ring-fencing and protecting for our young kids. We've got a lot of kids that come out of university that are very educated, qualified. We've got others that drop out of school, of course, others that are trained through TVET colleges. But there are soft jobs, jobs that are not a scarce skill, that are supposed to benefit, in particular, South Africans. But there is a law that is in the pipeline, the National Labour Migration Policy amendment that will give the minister now some power to ensure that certain categories of jobs are ring-fenced and are preserved for South Africans. So we, as Employment and Labour, are about creation of jobs, preservation of jobs, and decent jobs and rights of workers. But at the same time, we've got a lot of work that we are doing to support employers themselves. Through our entity called Productivity South Africa, we've got a program that is called Business Turnaround and Recovery, which we are assisting those businesses that are going down. We've got another program that we are calling it Temporary Employee Relief Scheme that is helping those employers that are going down and are at a brink of even retrenching workers. So we come in there and we support, we even pay the employees up to 70% of the total COE of those particular companies. So the work that we do looks at those issues. But I can't agree more with a colleague from Broadcasting South Africa, the issue of ensuring that we relook at the packages that we are giving in terms of social grants. How do we link those grants to ensuring that people are motivated to go and look for jobs? Because also part of the work that we do as Employment and Labour under a program called Public Employment Services, we are capturing, we've got a data that captures the job seekers, because we wouldn't like to see South Africans being discouraged to seek for jobs. Hence, then we support them, we give counseling, we also help them in terms of compiling CVs for them and ensuring that the database is available to the employers who would be needing people who are looking for jobs. So that's the work that we are trying to do, working with both employers and workers in South Africa. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Let me start with what Thando has asked. As ANC, last year, through the NWC, we issued a statement on our position in relation to what we called at that time constraining of the budget in terms of spending, but also in terms of not being reckless in how we do our work. So we've always called for a balance between fiscal policy that will ensure that we do not have a debt that is running ahead of us, but also that we do not constrain the spending. And that's why the decision that in the 6th administration was taken to go and implement GREP, GREP, with Reserve Bank. That's where we're able to get money out of the Reserve Bank. Some money was put in terms of protecting, in terms of putting it in the financial, the debt, and others was taken into spending for service delivery. So it's that context that we've got to remember. We don't think that just putting a name of capping is responsible. Otherwise, somebody will have to put the pros and cons to say what will be the implication. If you look at other global countries, the issue for us is the growth of our economy. If you look at other countries where the economy is growing higher, they do not even worry about the debt that they have because they can service it. The conversation that we are having around servicing of the debt is because our economy is not growing well to the percentage that we want, and therefore we are not generating enough income. And that's what we must resolve as a matter, because if we start saying, no, we're going to cap, it means we have no effort that we want to put in growing the economy. So I thought, let me just put it there. I think the approach, I've seen their documents. I don't think I agree with holistically what they are proposing. But from ANC point of view, we have a position that we don't agree with, because it's even not an ANC position, it's an alliance position, where we're saying that we must not go and consolidate and constrain. Because remember, government contributes to GDP as well. So the percentage of the money spent by government to GDP needs to continue to grow for the GDP to grow. And the issue here as well, what we have always said as ANC, is that we must improve the quality of spending and spend at the right places. So where growth is coming, we must channel our money into those areas. So I thought, let me just come to that. Junior asked about the issue of the bank. I've not retracted because what I said is that South Africans are saying that they are being discriminated against by the banks. Now, what I was saying is that based on Hlamla, which is an act passed, even prior to my arrival, all banks are required to disclose. Now, when they don't disclose, we can't even defend them whether they are discriminating or not. I don't know, because disclosure is not full. There are those that are disclosing, there are those that are not disclosing, but even the nature of disclosure is a problem. And when BASA responded to say, no, we are asking them to be reckless, we passed the Credit Act, so we understand the context of Credit Act. You are not providing us with data that says Mamuloko applied for a bond loan, 100,000, therefore rejected or approved. No, we're not looking for Mamuloko. We're looking for data to say 100 people applied in this category. There are people who are low-income earners. An example is this one. Somebody comes to me to say, Minister, I applied for a loan for Sentin of 1.5 million. I got rejected. I applied for a home loan for mid-rent for 1.5 million. I got approved. How do you explain that? Now, are you saying to us as black people, we are good to stay in mid-rent, not in Sentin? Because I qualify. I do not have a bad credit record. So it's those things. But it's also whistleblowers of people who have worked in the banks that are giving us some of this information. Now, I'm saying to the banks, to protect your credibility, assist us by disclosing. Now, if there's nothing wrong that they are doing, they can't have a problem with disclosing, which is an act of parliament that is required. So we've had a conversation with BASA representatives. I have committed to meeting the banks before the end of this year. We'll do that in a roundtable discussion. The team is working on suitable dates. But the agreement can't be compromised. We can't compromise on full disclosure by the banks. Who are they lending? Who are these categories? So if it's 100 black people, colored Indians, where are they loaning them? The interest rates that they are giving based on our profiles. That will satisfy South Africans to feel that they are not being discriminated against. And I'll be the first one to defend the banks if that case is not correct. It's the same thing, and as well we said to them, even in terms of non-disclosure, currently the penalty, imagine a bank is paying a penalty of 100,000. They don't feel it. We should agree that the 100,000 penalty is not worth it. So we must increase, and that's why we are calling for the review. So we are asking them to come to the table. The team has convened and have agreed. The DG has agreed. They're going to work with them to review the legislation. It's critical. It's the same thing with the the community schemes in the estates. When I raised the issue of non-transformation in those estates, I was threatened by court, by AfriForum, Solidarity as usual. When I talk transformation, I'm taken to court on these matters. Now, Competition Commission has come out and issued a report on what? On your broadband. To say, why is it one service provider that is allowed in these community schemes, in all the estates, to connect? ISPs must be given an opportunity. Small players must play. And that's fully of all services in community schemes. We are not fighting. We are saying give South Africans equal opportunities to participate in their economy. Whether where they live, private sector, it's not about, economy can grow, driven by government only. All of us, public, private, all of us have a role to play. And that's what we are calling for. Now, on the issue of electricity and municipalities battling, let me start with the issue of load reduction. There are two issues there, and one of the issues that we have to deal with, one, is the infrastructure in municipalities. The infrastructure in municipalities over time has become a bit of a challenge, DK. So because we have not been investing in infrastructure, for example, if you look at the grants that in the metros, I provide grants in the metros for metros to build infrastructure, new infrastructure in your electricity, for example. It doesn't take into consideration the decaying of infrastructures across. Bulk infrastructure over time is decaying. We do not build new and expand. But also the issue of what? Of maintenance. So we've got to, one of the issues in one of the conversation we had in cabinet was that we need to review the grant system that we have for municipalities. And this was asked to say, and recently resuscitated in the 7th administration. It started in the 6th administration. In the 7th administration, Minister Hlabisa has been asked to lead that. I'm part of it, where we need to look at the grant system to be able to reflect on the issues even around maintenance. But there's an issue here as well. You are not able to plan better, and that's why I made it, I didn't go into detail, just the issue of illegal connections. You are not able to plan better in terms of your supply as a municipality when you do not have accurate data on how many people you are to supply to. So the illegal connection are denying municipalities an opportunity to know that instead of being able to consume by 2,000, you have a data of 100 people. Now you plan and work on the basis of 100 people, only to find that what is in your distribution network is 2,000. And that's why you'll find the transformers blowing, because the capacity is higher than what you are supposed to have. That's why you'd find municipality infrastructure can't carry what is supposed to. So it's a responsibility as well for us as citizens that we've got to ensure that izinyoka doesn't happen. This illegal connection doesn't happen. Because municipality, as part of their revenue generation, but also as planning, they'll be able to deal with what the capacity they need in these communities. I mean, and that's why, as human settlements, one of the issues that we've been driven was the issue of backyarders. To say, can we authorize backyarders to live, but give them bonds and all those things? I said it has to correspond with expansion of bulk infrastructure. Because if the sewer is meant to carry for 100 households, and then you increase the backyarders, they build the rooms at the back, then you have more people. Yes, it's an economic opportunity because an RDP person will then have an income, generate an income from these backyard dwellers. But what it does, if there are 3 families additional to that one, then the bulk infrastructure can't carry additional because the planning and the engineers plan for a particular community. We built bulk infrastructure for 2,500, you have 4,500. Then you have sewer running in the streets, you have transformers burning, you have load reduction. It's those issues that we've got to be cognizant of as we deal with this. But one of the things, as I said, the intervention is around looking at maintenance and expansion. But also I think we need an extensive community awareness, and that's why Comrade Spookler's media briefing are assisting, because what he does, he deals with various issues. He deals with the issue around energy generation, he deals with the transmission, he deals with the distribution as well. And that's why I can highlight just on this issue. So the issue again on expensive electricity. That's why we've got to look. One of the issues that led, for example, to the challenges of electricity within ESCOM, and which we need to deal with. ESCOM will ask NERSA to say, these are the tariffs that we want because we've got to recover. The prices that we paid in terms of renewables are also one of the contributors to what we are seeing today. So that's why we've called for a review of the whole tariff at energy level so that we can make it affordable. While we're doing that, one of the interventions is retrofit. So retrofit in terms of the poor households so that they can be able to, but also that's why the introduction of tax rebates on those households that were putting solar panels. It was part of multifaceted interventions to respond to what we have, because some of the issues are not immediate solutions. So you're going to have to deal with them as long-term. And that's why you must have immediate interventions to support communities and households. On the issue, I think Natasha as well asked this, I think I've covered, Natasha, on the electricity as well. The BRICS trading, it's also around the African free trade. There's an issue of trading in terms of the systems that we use. BRICS would have pronounced around maybe moving away from SWIFT, and also African free trade. There's an issue that we had to deal with in terms of around the financial transacting platforms. There are 2 things I want to say there. We will study as a country, obviously. We are part of these multilateral platforms that we agreed to. But again, we have a responsibility to ensure that we do not damage what we have. So conversation will be with the Minister of Finance and together with the Reserve Bank to ensure that when we take over these platforms, we do not compromise what we have. So currently, if you look at the transactions that we are doing, you are able to transact easily on the platforms quicker. You don't have to wait days for money, so we've advanced. And on the continent, we've advanced quite competitively to many other countries. SWIFT, it just happened this week, so we'll get a proper briefing in terms of the deployees who were there at BRICS level. Comrade Parks was there, Minister of Finance will brief us from their side and the taking, because they would have done the work. But it does also give us some level of liberty, because sometimes you get the sanctions that force you not to be able to trade with other people who are your partners. And if you trade, then you risk being shut down from other platforms. Today we have the sanctions against Russia. We have challenges there. So transacting with Russia will become a difficulty at SWIFT. We do not have a problem with Russia as a country. There are countries, because of bilaterals, we have trade relations that are currently, so payments becomes an issue. And it affects businesses, because if you trade with that country and then you want your money, they must pay your money. It's not easy because they can't transact on SWIFT. So alternatives do assist, but we've got to look at the pros and cons. What are the risk factors? What are the pros? As I'm saying, for example, somebody who trades in Zimbabwe wanting to pay, they have their money held in Zimbabwe not coming out. Not only in BRICS, but we do have quite a number of experiences such as that, where money is held, businesses are saying, I've done a business, I've done work in this area, I'm not able to be paid because these people are not allowed to transact, or the transacting platform has literally sanctioned them. So it becomes a challenge. So it's something that, as we go, Natasha will look into it to the benefit of South Africa, because we have got to deal with issues for our national interest as a country. What is best for us? How do we grow our economy? to the best of us serving the people. I hope I didn't leave out anything. Those are the ones. The inflation.
Yes, for we are sitting below the mid-target band. Do you think it's time for the Reserve Bank to be more aggressive on easing interest rates?
Look, the notion on how Reserve Bank work, I think we've been able to say there are issues, for example, they are able to protect so that we don't have inflation that is runaway, but equally we've called on other measures to be looked into. And also the study that we said we'll do as an ANC to see how other countries are competing. So for now, we do want to allow the Reserve Bank to continue in the manner that they are continuing until we have tangible evidence-based research that says there is a better way without compromising South Africans and all that. And I say this very, very cautious because if you have runaway inflation, for example, you do not allow SAP to do its work in the manner that it has been doing. You will end up, for example, paying bread for 200 rands. We've seen it in many countries. And that leads to riots, that leads to instability and democracy collapsing. We don't want to see that. That's why our work around the Reserve Bank and inflation has to be evidence-based in terms of the intervention, but also in the interest of South Africa. So we do not agree. There are those who go to extreme to say, leave the Reserve Bank, you have nothing to do with it. If there are intervention mechanisms that would have to do that will not compromise this country, we'll do it. So we shouldn't be extremists. The others are saying go to this extreme, the others going to the extreme. Would want to do it in an evidence-based method that is responsible, that shows that as a leader of society, as ANC, we say we protect South African citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mamuluko, and thank you to Comrade Meth and Comrade Barbara for all of your responses. I take it that you can be sure with the chairperson of the ETC subcommittee that she will explain above and beyond. So thank you very much, members of the media. We still have an appointment tomorrow morning, which is a commemoration of the life and times of the longest serving president of the ANC, Oliver Tambo, at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.